The night I kissed my first husband in Paris, my second husband was watching from the balcony above us. The strange part was not that he watched. The strange part was that he smiled. And the most impossible part, I did not know I was already married to him. My name is Taylor Morgan, and this story moves between America, England, Switzerland, and a truth so intimate that sometimes I still wonder if love itself can become a kind of betrayal. I lived in New York City, the kind of life that looked perfect from the outside. Art curator, luxury apartment, invitations to events that felt like scenes from movies. But inside, I felt hollow. Not lonely, just untouched. Until I met Chris Hemsworth. Yes, the name always made people laugh. Tall, warm, disarming smile. He was not rich, not famous, just intensely present. We met at a bookstore cafe in Manhattan. I reached for the same book as him. Our fingers brushed. A small moment, but something electric ran through me. He didn't flirt aggressively. He simply said, "You look like someone who reads endings before beginnings." I laughed because it was true, and because no one had ever noticed that before. Chris loved slowly, intentionally. He didn't rush intimacy. He built it. Late-night walks across Brooklyn Bridge, sharing headphones while listening to old music, cooking together in silence where our shoulders touched lightly every few seconds. He kissed like he was discovering something sacred, not hungry, not possessive, but deep, like he wanted to memorize me. The first time he stayed over, we fell asleep tangled together, my head on his chest, his hand tracing circles on my back. I remember thinking, this is what safety feels like. We traveled to Italy together after 6 months. Florence, warm evenings, wine shared from one glass, hands brushing under the table. One night, rain forced us into a tiny restaurant. We danced slowly between tables while strangers clapped. That was the night I realized I was falling deeply in love. Months later, I met Henry Cavilla at a gallery event. British, quiet, sharp gaze. He looked at me like he already knew me, and when he spoke, his voice felt familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "You don't remember me," he said softly. I laughed awkwardly. "We've never met." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not like this." Chris disliked him immediately. Not aggressively, but subtly. A slight tension in his jaw, a protective closeness when Henry entered the room. I thought it was jealousy. It felt romantic. I didn't know it was fear. Henry began appearing more often, at exhibitions, at cafes, at places I didn't expect. But every conversation with him felt unfinished, like we were continuing something already started. One night he said quietly, "Have you ever felt like your memories are missing pieces?" My heart skipped, because I had. Small gaps, moments that felt blurred. I ignored it. Love makes you avoid uncomfortable questions. Chris proposed in Switzerland. Snow falling, mountain air, a simple ring, his eyes full of vulnerability. He said, "I don't want a perfect life. I just want you." I said yes without hesitation. That night, we made love slowly, deeply, like we were sealing something eternal. His hands were gentle, his voice whispered my name like a promise. After returning to America, strange things started happening. Henry knew details about me no stranger should know. My favorite song, my childhood fears, even private jokes. I confronted Chris. He reassured me. "You're safe with me," he said, and I believed him because loving him felt like breathing. I traveled to Paris for work. I thought Chris stayed back in New York. Henry unexpectedly appeared at the same hotel. We walked along the Seine at night. The air felt heavy with tension. "You loved me first," he said quietly. The words hit me like thunder. "What?" He stepped closer. His eyes held pain. I laughed nervously. That's impossible." He looked devastated. "You really don't remember?" He kissed me. Softly, slowly, and something inside me ignited. Not new, familiar, dangerously familiar. And that was when I looked up and saw Chris watching from a balcony above us. I didn't know he was with me in Paris, watching. He did not look angry. He looked relieved. Back in the room, everything exploded into truth. Chris confessed. Years ago in England, I had been married to Henry. Deep love, intense connection. We had a big wedding, but we broke apart after unresolved emotional conflict. I was deeply broken. I moved to America to start over. Later, I met Chris, but unresolved emotions remained. It was a lot for me to bear. Chris believed I was emotionally trapped between past and present, so he suggested experimental therapy, some form of guided emotional separation. But along the line, something went wrong. Memories blurred, and I forgot Henry completely. I just realized Henry had spent years searching for me. Now I stood between two men. Chris, steady, safe, deeply loving. Henry, intense, magnetic, unfinished passion. And the worst part? I loved both. Not in theory, in feeling, in touch, in breath. Chris held me at night like he was afraid I would disappear. Henry looked at me like he had already lost me once. Every glance, every word felt heavy with meaning. Weeks later, I discovered something hidden. The therapy had not been accidental. Chris arranged it, not to hurt me, but because he feared losing me to Henry. He chose love, and chose to rewrite my heart to keep me. Standing between them, I realized something terrifying. Love is not always pure. Sometimes it is desperate, sometimes selfish, sometimes beautiful and dangerous at the same time. And the most impossible truth? I still loved Chris, even knowing what he did. Because the deepest romance is not perfect. It is messy, dark, unavoidable. And sometimes, the person who breaks you is the same one who makes you feel most alive. People think choosing between two people is simple. They think it is a clear moment, a decision, a yes or no. But it wasn't like that for me. It felt like standing between two versions of my own soul and realizing that no matter which direction I walked, I was going to lose something that mattered. And that was the hardest part. I loved Chris, and I loved Henry. Not the same way, never the same way, but both of them lived inside me. Chris was not just a man I loved. Chris was a feeling. He was my first fire. The first person who looked at me like I wasn't someone's daughter, someone's responsibility, someone's future investment. He saw me before I knew who I was. With Chris, everything felt alive. The nights felt longer. The air felt warmer. Even silence felt full. When he touched my hand, I didn't feel safe. I felt electric, dangerous, like we were breaking rules just by existing together. He made promises that felt bigger than reality, and I believed every single one. Even when he broke me, a part of me never stopped waiting for the explanation. For the moment he would say, "I never stopped loving you." And when he explained himself, that unfinished chapter opened again. But Henry was different. Henry arrived like quiet, like breath returning after drowning. When I met him, I wasn't strong. I wasn't romantic. I wasn't hopeful. I was broken in ways I didn't know how to name. He never tried to replace Chris. He never competed with a ghost. He just stayed, every day, in small ways. He listened when I spoke about nothing. He sat beside me when I had no words. He loved me without demanding proof that I loved him back the same way. With Henry, love didn't feel like fire. It felt like gravity, steady, constant, unavoidable. And that scared me in a different way, because passion feels obvious, but safety feels quiet, and sometimes we mistake quiet for absence. When Chris came back into my life, everything inside me fractured. I tried to be honest with myself. I told myself it was just nostalgia, just curiosity, just closure. But my body knew the truth before my mind admitted it. I started comparing everything. The way Chris laughed louder, the way Henry listened deeper, the way Chris made my heart race, the way Henry made breathing slow. I hated myself for it, because love is not supposed to feel like betrayal, but mine did. Some nights I lay beside Henry and felt guilty because my thoughts drifted to Chris. Other nights I sat with Chris and felt ashamed because Henry's kindness echoed in my head. I was living two emotional lives at once, and slowly I started disappearing from both of them. Chris sensed it first. He would look at me like he was searching for something he used to recognize. "You're holding back," he said once. I didn't deny it, because I was. The truth is, I was angry at Chris, even after understanding the pressure and fear and manipulation that forced him away. He still left. He still broke something in me. And love cannot grow in the same shape once it has been shattered like that. I forgave him, but forgiveness did not bring me back to who I used to be with him. That version of me no longer existed. Henry never asked me to choose. That was the cruelest kindness. He never begged, never demanded, never made me feel trapped. He only said one thing: "I want you to stay because you want to stay, not because you feel guilty." And that broke me more than anything else, because I realized something. Chris made me feel alive, but Henry made me feel known. Chris loved the version of me that burned. Henry loved the version of me that healed. The fight for my heart was not between two men, it was between two futures. One filled with passion that might always carry uncertainty, one filled with stability that felt like peace. And I had to ask myself a question I had avoided for years. Was I chasing the memory of love or choosing the reality of it? I forgave Chris, fully, without anger, without resentment. I thanked him for loving me the way only a first love can, for teaching me what intensity feels like. But I understood that some loves exist to begin us, not to complete us, and that realization hurt more than losing him the first time. I chose Henry, not because he was safer, not because he waited, not because he deserved it more. I chose him because when I imagined my future, not my past, not my fantasies, my future felt calm when he was in it. And for the first time, calm didn't feel boring. It felt like home. And Chris, he didn't fight. He just nodded like he already knew. Because sometimes the deepest love is not holding on. It is stepping aside when someone has finally found where they belong.